Welcome back to the farm, everyone. Lucky, you're a bit of a liability with that gigantic bone. Watch out, wrecking ball coming through. We're doing this. Okay. Not on camera, guys. Don't be weird. O'Malley's got the gigantic bone now. Him and Lucky are frenemies. Whoa, Jukes! Are you not going to join, Murphy? You're above petty things like that. We've got a real zoo out here. As long as it's outside, that's all that matters. Okay, that's new. Can cats just not help themselves but to climb on new places? Anyways, back to serious matters. At the end of the last video, I may have jinxed us completely by saying the hurricane wasn't really amounting to much here, because after I shut down the old video machine, the rain only added another couple tenths, so we got a little over an inch of rain. That's a non-event, really, for how fall goes. The wind, though, got a little nasty at times. Was it horrible? No, but there was some damage done in spots. Like this tree, for instance. Trees are not supposed to look like this. It was already dead, I think. The inside was rotten, so the northeast wind, which is unusual for us to get, was just the right recipe to knock it down. There was some collateral damage because it took off about half of the tree next to it. That'll be a project to do when the ground dries up. Don't think we're going to do it yet because it'd make a mess of the yard. Or we may just leave it here for a month and let it think about what it did. It's amazing how a tree that is mostly dead on the inside can still put on green leaves yearly, and a lot of them. I thought it was dead, but it was leafing out like it was alive, and here we are. It was at least 50% dead. This is a better angle of the 2-for-1. Top broke out of that one, came over, and then knocked a branch down. So we've got a job on our to-do list. Just a matter of when we get to it. The only thing I dislike about this yard is that anytime the wind blows, particularly if it's very windy, I think they clocked it at 65 miles an hour at the airport a couple miles away, there is a ton of branches that fall. A lot of them are small branches. I've probably picked up 100, and I'd bet there's another 25 or 30 that remain that need added to the burn pile. Although I've not done a head count, I do believe all of the chickens survived. They were safe and sound in their fancy coop, so there's really no threat to them there. I did see a raccoon in the yard the other day. He got away before I could grab my raccoon deterrent system. Hopefully he doesn't come back and try to get any eggs from us. The new cat also survived. She's our little chicken guardian. I'll have to get your mom to bring you some food out. I'm going to work. There's got to be a more efficient way to get down than to do that. Why does everyone just follow me around the yard like I'm the Pope or something? I got nothing to offer you but food and water. That's it. I can hardly promise shelter right now. I've not been able to thoroughly scout. It does appear that we may have pockets of corn that are down. Until I get the drone up to actually verify, I think it's just a minor amount. Something that's going to be an inconvenience like picking up a tree in your front yard. Nothing that even compares to what I've seen in Georgia, the Carolinas, Tennessee from that hurricane coming up, wind damage, massive flooding. So we're going to keep those people in our prayers. Hopefully they can survive and sustain as the recovery efforts go on and then rebuild. What we have here is just something to deal with, not something that costs anyone their lives or anything other than a little bit of time. Even when faced with inconveniences, you just got to appreciate that life is relative. Some things don't matter as much as you think, especially when you see people dealing with things that are significantly worse. What do you think about the state of the world today, Graham? A man of few words, recovering from his illness. The fever's gone, but he's a little crabby. He could have just got that from Grandpa Mort. Other than crops looking a little depressed and trees being down in spots, no major damage anywhere else, so we're in good shape. Once the sun comes out for a few days, we're gearing up to really hit it hard with harvest. No more rain in the forecast currently, and it looks like almost all of our soybeans will be ready to harvest once they dry out. Corn's probably still floating in that 21-22% range. We don't dry our corn with heat, just air on all of our bins here. So we're looking for sub 18% before we think about storing that, unless it looks like there's a lot of rain in the forecast. We may just put it in the bins wetter and try to blow more hot air from Mother Nature, not from natural gas on them. That's a moving target. We normally plan on air drying low moisture corn just to keep the cost down and harvest efficient. Right now we're shutting up the last of our bins at the main farm because it looks like, as I mentioned, we should be pretty busy here in the next few days, and shutting these up is something you ought to do when you're not busy. There's Chris and Jeff getting back from Arthur's repair shop. They were servicing our drive over pit we use to load our augers, to load our bins. It usually needs a little work over, and it's got a few bushels through it, to say the least. Here's our newest bin, the 48-foot Brock. This will be the second time we filled it. Really, shutting up the bin just entails dragging the sweep back to the starting position, picking up all of the mouse poison we leave in here in the off season, spraying insecticide to reduce bugs, because bugs will get in here and eat your grain, reduce your quality, and then close the doors with these handles and shut them. The new bins like this one have these convenient handles. All of the other ones here, except for the north one, which is also newer-ish, are bolt shut, so they don't have the handles. You actually have to bolt the doors closed. It's been a few hours. Among other things, we got the sweeps all positioned, slides closed, bins sprayed down. Just gotta shut the doors, bolt them down if necessary, and go from there. Daddy here tested some corn a little bit ago. I haven't heard from him what it was testing yet. I'm sure, based on what we've seen so far, that it's still in the upper teens, if not lower 20s. And yes, the more observant ones out there have noticed that I have in fact changed my outfit. It's from being in the bins. I thought I'd just change, take a shower, clean up a little bit. That's one of the nice things about being an adult and working close to home. You have the luxury of changing your outfit whenever you want. It's really not that uncommon on the farm to change your outfit if you get dirty. If you're changing your underwear all the time, though, you may need to go to a doctor. Wonder what the old soybeans are doing today. Wet, dry, who knows? Gotta check. Holy cow, that cracked right open. 14 to 15. Sun has not been out at all today. If it was, I bet these would have cut. If not today, definitely tomorrow. The ground's also a little soft too, which doesn't encourage us to go a day early on them. Wait and see what Mother Nature does. Oh yeah, those are 16 plus. It's gonna be a busy week of cutting beans. A lot of moisture on the stem still, a little damp. And that one doesn't want to pop open. These Don Mario 3756 are just a good looking bean. Does anyone want to guess the moisture on these before I throw them in my mouth? Usually if you can flatten them with your finger, there's no reason to even throw them in the official tester. 21. If it takes another day or two for those to dry, it's not the end of the world. We're going to be so busy that we may appreciate not running at the beginning of the week right now. What'd the corn test?
20.4.
That's the 117-day corn?
That's what's on Virginia Campbell's.
Yep. Well, the railroad's probably drier than that.
We may go look.
For those of you who are keeping track at home and following along on the calendar, yesterday is over and it is now today. That's the simplest way I can explain what's going on. We took care of some small odds and ends, ear tested some 111-day Pioneer corn planted the 4th of May. It was 18.2 on the tester, so it's probably not dry enough to pick and air dry in our bins, unfortunately. Probably gonna have soybeans that'll cut here this afternoon, if not tomorrow. We finished closing up all of the bins except for this one right here at the main farm, the middle 36-foot bin, because it's got some slightly major foundation issues with it. These grain bins are 40 to 50 years old. The concrete, little shoddy at best. I don't know if it was the contractor that built it or if it's just old concrete. Maybe the ground is settled. They didn't pour a strong enough or deep enough footing. I really don't know. Bins today are built a little bit more securely than bins 45, 50 years ago. We got to get in. We're trying to at least get by this year by putting some wood underneath the floor to spread the load a little bit where the concrete settled and cracked off on one side. And then the long-term plan is to probably jack the bin up next season and re-pour the pad, or at least supplement the pad with another layer, a couple inches of concrete, because the bin looks a little iffy right now. We've been using it like this for years. It's just gotten to the point where we got to do something or this corn may end up on the ground.
in. To the floor. Let's cut them off.
After a few hours of diligent work and only a couple of curse words, I promise just a few, not a ton, we have hopefully closed this chapter of this bin floor / foundation issue on this middle 36-foot bin at Jeff's house. It's something that is going to need a permanent fix in the near future. I'm talking about probably after we get this bin filled and emptied one more time. I don't exactly know what a permanent fix looks like. The most expensive option, obviously, is to jack the bin up, tear the slab out, and pour a new slab. I don't know that we would do that. We would probably jack the bin up, tear off the part of the slab that's bad, and then re-pour at least the cracked off section. And I don't know if we need some overlayment with some rebar on the rest to kind of secure everything together. I'm not a concrete expert, so we'd have to have someone who makes a lot more money in concrete figure that out than us. This little Milwaukee tower light's very useful. I knew when I bought it 5 years ago that I would eventually find a good reason to use it. And here it is. Only took 5 years, but I figured it out. While I was in there bolting down the floor skirting around the edge, Dad drug out the X9. I think that means he may be trying to cut some beans today, or he was just bored. There'll be a lot of guys this afternoon with the wind and moderate sunshine that do try to cut beans. I'm just skeptical that they'll get dry enough to test today. We will probably find out in another couple hours. It's not as warm as it's been over the last couple weeks. There is a really nice breeze and low humidity today, so that could dry it out. On these bins, you can see where the concrete foundation has cracked in more than one spot too. We've patched it some with Quikrete, which isn't really going to do the whole job. Could just be age, could be the ground settling underneath it further. These things were put in a long time ago. I was guessing 50 years, and some of these cracks have developed to be pretty major. There's cracks all the way around. That's one we've patched. Here's another one on this side. The foundation's even kind of leaning in a little bit on them. They're just old. Unfortunately, they didn't last as long as you would hope for what it cost to build a new one. These ones were very cheap. That was also 50 years ago, so things change. Dad and I have different theories about what's going on here. I thought with the slope of the main farm and the channel of water running along here, that water could have been getting in and around the foundations in the winter and then freezing when it got below freezing, and that could have been expanding initial cracks that had formed. The other thing we noticed inside, and I didn't show you on camera, underneath the flooring, when you look at the foundation where the big cracks are, there is gravel and sand on top of the cement. So that would have been the underlayment to form the bottom layer so it wouldn't settle below the concrete. Dad thinks that maybe some rats were involved, that they drug the sand up underneath, and that's actually what's causing these bins to kind of settle in a little bit. Something's pulling out the underlayment, and then the foundation and the weight of our corn is just degrading the concrete frame or foundation. Time obviously plays a role. I've already said that. They're just getting old. They'll need repoured at some point, or supplemental pourage done on them, because they're not going to last forever at this rate. Here's a thought. Maybe the same contractor and concrete truck that comes to pour our pit, our leg, and our 250,000 bushel corn bin and dryer system could also repour these foundations. 2 birds with 1 stone. It's just money, right? Only costs 8% a year right now. It's like free. The combine was parked outside because Dad's making some adjustments on the unloading auger. Doesn't like the way it's sitting when it's folded in. Moving it bracket. Moving it bracket. They did get the new grain tank extension installed. Sloan's Express has been really good about following up with us, making sure everything's working out right. So again, props to them for customer support. They've taken good care of us. Now we're just waiting on the beans to dry. I just watched a wrench fly off the side and he's climbing down now, so I think that means we're done. We need to dry up. We're running out of things to do. Before too long, we're gonna have to start mowing again because of the moisture. There's the new grain tank extension. It is a power hopper topper. The last one was a Dimco. It folds correctly, so that's better than what we had before. Should have had 100 bushels, I think, the capacity. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 25% more. It's kind of like asking yourself if you'd take a 25% pay raise. I think you'd say yeah. Meanwhile, the rest of us work for free. I'm just kidding. I get paid in fun and experience. Here is the best feature on the X9. I don't know if I have the camera lined up to show you. On all of the Deere combines before this, the rotor speed adjustment was a very inconvenient lever behind the rotor, and then the feed accelerator was a very inconvenient belt adjustment on the right side of the cab if you're in the driver's seat. Now they have it where it's just a lever in this access door. So on beans, we go to the second speed of the feed accelerator, that's fast, and for the rotor speed, we go to the second gear. I think we're in the first gear for corn, and that should be neutral. That should be 2, because that's 3, so there's 2. I don't know what you'd use the really high speed one for. Rice, maybe? Dad is hooking up the other combine. I'm gonna put the knives in the chopper, change the chopper speed. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't cut a sample before too long. Just need to change a few things over on the monitor. For the record, I do get paid. That was just a joke earlier. I'm about to touch the screen with my gloves on. I know that upsets some of you. Watch me do it. I'm doing it. Closing the hopper with my gloves on. Just over to soybeans. Okay, it should remember all of our settings. Above my pay grade anyways. The rest is in Dad's control. There's just no waiting. You gotta scratch that itch. When it's close, you just gotta go to the field and see how close it really is. We talked to our Pioneer dealer, Bruce, 2 hours ago. He cut a sample of beans and said they were 16% in change on the combine monitor, so ours ought to be getting pretty close to 14 or 15, I don't know. This will be our third time trying to cut this field north of Dad's house. It's only 29 acres. It's taken us 3 separate outings to try and get this, and this may not be the last one. Jeff thought they'd be 15%. I think they'll be 15.5. We'll hear what the boss says. Look at my mom's flowers. Aren't they lovely? I have not heard the report from the head shed, the head honcho, Marty himself, about the moisture. I would be pretty surprised if we're able to run today. The sun and the wind is helping. Low humidity also helps. There's just so much residual moisture on the plants and on the ground from the rain over the weekend, from the hurricane, and just a heavy dew in the morning. I think it'll be another day before we can really put the pedal down. Could be wrong. I'll let you know. What did the combine show them at?
16.
Okay.
Is that pretty well on?
I think it was a little high compared to our sample last time, like a half point high. We sent Chris with a sample of the elevator just to double check the accuracy of the combine. Dad's gonna go check some fields. I'm gonna check some other fields to manually verify some moistures. Like I said, I don't know if we'll be able to run today. I just hopped out and looked at these Pioneer 3.7s. They need another day at least, and the ground's kind of soft. That's what we're gonna run into on a lot of these farms. Some of these beans are close, yet the ground is too damp. Dry forecast, I don't think you really mud them out this early. Just the 1st of October to today. Check these ones too. This is the same bean where Dad just cut a sample, just different field, different planting date. A little wet out here. Even if you know the answer, sometimes you just gotta look anyways. It's due diligence and all that, you know? Don Mario 3756s. Harvestability looks decent, some snap to them. Pop one of these off, beans fall out of the pod. Just a matter of moisture. Man, those are close. Really close. when they were planted, what variety of soybean. They're all about the same moisture, the same maturity or progression through harvestability. That's a terrible way to word that sentence. Essentially meaning that we're pretty much going to have a lot of beans to cut. If you remember the last video, 2 videos ago, about why we left the draper at this field, that bridge that you watched this combine cross, we're going to leave one here because we want to get these cut so we can take this head out and not have to cross around and do different things. Basically, it's safer for us to leave this draper here. We don't have anything else close enough to harvesting, as opposed to dragging it out across that bridge and back onto the highway just to have to bring it back again. A lot of traveling in an area that can get a little congested. It's rained over 3 inches since we cut the sample 10 days ago now. Watching the moisture in that bottom left corner. 14.5. Hold steady. 14. 14. Dad says he may have replanted some spots too. Sun and the wind, it's drying. It's just a matter of will it dry fast enough. It's easier to use my hand than to blur it out in the editing process. A good looking sample. We took that sample to the elevator to use their tester about 20 minutes ago, and they were 14.7. It is 3 o'clock, a little after 3 actually, and we think that within an hour we can probably go ahead and start cutting them, get these fields done, focus on other things like this field. Getting close. That one's hard. They'll be close tomorrow. I can't guarantee that they'll cut. Ground's pretty firm too here, surprisingly. This may not make sense to some of you. It is what we're gonna do. Katie is gonna cut on her own here, starting in about 30 minutes, load this truck. I'm gonna move the grain cart over with the big combine. We're gonna finish that field. Once they're both done, then we may consider regrouping tomorrow. These are 2 small fields we started. It's going to be easier to just get them finished as opposed to leaving them. They're the soonest ones to be ready, the closest to being ready. It makes sense and also doesn't make sense. They're small enough fields where it doesn't really matter what we do. You're correct. This is not going to be the most efficient thing we've ever done. Not everything is always a perfectly orchestrated song and dance. A lot of ad-libbing goes on here, and this is going to be the easiest thing for us to do to get started with soybean harvest again after the rain. If we had a 200-acre field ready, I can guarantee you both combines will be in the field. We're just tying up loose ends right now. Looks like Dad has already fired the combine up, so I'm behind schedule already. The new topper looks nice. I'd say it's still a little tacky in spots. Mud on the LSWs right now.
Loading the train at Neoga, Jeff, so you may want to go to the South Drive.
Katie just radioed. She fired up the 670, said the beans are showing 14.5 to 15. Seems like it's been about a half point higher when we've taken the samples to the elevator. So she's got the green light to cut from the boss. We're gonna get these 2 finished and reevaluate from there. I think these are running 13 to 14 now, so that hour wait made a big difference. Beans dry quick when the weather's cooperating. Just a deer along the trees. That thing is loud. Probably the wind is carrying the sound. I don't ever recall it having such a groan to it. I wonder who would win the battle between that thing and a tree limb. Probably nobody, I guess, if you think about it hard enough. I think that means I should probably get back in the tractor and start it up. Duty calls. If you'll pardon the glare, you can see on Op Center, we're right over here, south of Lakeland College, east of Route 45, and Katie's back by the main farm, cutting north of my dad's house. Should have these both wrapped up quickly. Haven't heard from Jeff what his load tested. What did those beans test?
15.
I think he just said 15. That's a little higher than we were expecting, is what it is, and we've already almost got the whole field cut, so on to the next one. That one's done. We're gonna cut a sample a mile to the west. I'm gonna take the truck in the head. Jeff should have a semi back there, and then once we open that up, should be able to just move the rest back over. Might have put the cart before the horse. Let's hope this truck can get this head cart out of the wet field. She's struggling. Back her up a little bit. Get her in 4 high. We just need to get to the bridge. The rest will figure itself out. I tried to do it on advanced mode, backing up the all-wheel steer cart. This is how far I made it. 50 foot? Yeah, I know. I stink. I'm bad at backing up all-wheel steer carts. Dad's cutting a sample to see if those beans look like they're gonna test or not. I stopped over here to turn the cart around and show you the bridge project again. Where we ended a couple days ago, we stopped here with the two 2x12s maybe on top of the I-beams we added. We've added another 2x12 on top of it to kind of get it more level. 98% of what we use fits on the tin boards you see, and then we added the extra ones on the outside because the X9's wider. It's just a safety precaution. Most of the weight falls across the middle with almost everything. This thing's strong enough for loaded semis to come across. It is over-engineered. This is what I'd like to call my dad's legacy project because it's a bridge that'll last a lifetime. Unless, of course, there's an earthquake or a tornado. you can't really earmark those things. Anything can happen. This should do for now, and the neighbors who use it should appreciate the peace of mind of it being even wider. Hopefully they know that there's more than just 2x12s on the outside. There's big I-beams there. Nice view of where Dad's cutting. We got a lot of beans in this area, good dirt, just a ton of water damage in early July. I'm not expecting anything special out here just because it doesn't matter how good the top end is. If the low spots are almost completely gone, you're not going to have a great crop. Or they could be great, like the beans I thought were 14% that probed at the elevator at 15%. Not right all the time. Actually, most of the time I'm wrong. So if anything, bet against me. And not in an ironic way, and like a literally take the opposite side I do, because I'm usually wrong. Beautiful evening. Wow. Dad's combine showing 14% moisture. You can't really look at the yield because it takes it a little bit into the field to recalibrate with a different variety, the active yield system. If these make 70, I would be absolutely shocked. I just don't think that's going to happen. 14% moisture though, that's pretty close to where we want to start. They'll start to pick moisture up here again soon with the sun coming down. We'll at least get the cart over here, get another load. I'm bringing the grain cart over. Dad said he wants to give these beans another partial day of drying, especially with the sun going down. They'll start to pick up moisture soon. He's going to cut enough for him to put some beans on the truck and a spot for me to load the truck, and then we're going to shut her down for the night. Not heard from Katie, so I guess that's good, or maybe it's bad. Look at that Draper flexing. Jeff, what'd your last load the elevator test?
14.
Definitely got a bad probe on that first one. Just must have had a wet spot in the load and that probe found it. Sometimes it's luck. Guess I've been demoted. It's gonna do it for tonight. With that last load off of the previous field that we've been working on for 10 days now, the average of those 3756E Don Mario beans was 79 bushels wet. As you heard, a load was at 14, a load was at 15. I think a load 10 days ago was 14. I'm not sure how much shrink would be on those. Let's say they made 75. That's pretty darn good for that field this year. It's less prone to water damage, but the dry stretches probably hurt it. Either way, we'll take that 75 bushels, let's say, and run to the bank. I don't know why he didn't cut this in the first place to give me a spot to turn around. Just Marty things. I've been trying to develop a refined system, calculation if you will, to determine whether or not you had a good day. I'd say 75% of that is weighted on whether or not you accomplished anything, and we did that, so we had 75% of a good day. 5% if you got more done than you were expecting, which we did with cutting beans. I didn't think we'd go today. 5% if you took a nap, yes. 5% if you had a good meal. I don't know. I haven't had dinner yet, so I can't answer that. There's also 5% if you got a pet, a dog or cat, depending on which one you prefer, so I've got that going for me. And another 5% for whether or not you ran John Deere equipment, which I did. So we're at 100% safely of a good day. In all seriousness, the only thing that really matters at the end of the day is whether or not everyone gets back home to their family safe and sound. Everything else is irrelevant, as much as I like to joke. I think we're nearing the end of this rabbit hole, so I'm going to shut down the video operations for the day. Appreciate you all tuning in. Hope you are having a great week. Your family safe and sound. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.